Welcome to the Fortinus Events podcast series, where we engage in dynamic conversations with the pioneers, experts, and changemakers driving progress across industries. In each episode, we explore how cutting-edge innovations, strategic approaches, and emerging trends are reshaping the future of businesses.
So, hi there. Welcome to the first podcast for the second annual CX Global Summit Philippines, happening this 3rd and 4th in Manila. Joining us today is Francis Chiu, a multi-awarded technology executive with over 25 years of experience driving digital transformation in financial services. As head of consumer banking applications at BDO Unibank, he leads digital banking initiatives that enhance customer experience and optimize operations. Welcome, Francis.
Thanks so much, Sarisha. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you.
Yes, same. Now, before we actually touch on the topic for today, innovating consumer banking, leveraging technology to enhance customer experience, could you share a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I've been in IT for maybe 25 plus years. And through those years, I've seen changes in customer experience from the late 90s through Y2K and, of course, pre-social media. And now, the glory days of social media. So I've gone through all of that whilst also building solutions for multinationals and also local organizations here in the Philippines. So I'd say I've gone through pretty much everything and anything there is in IT.
Right. Awesome. So, since you've been in the field for a very, very long time, you'd be the best to explain a little bit about, how are banks, especially, evolving to meet future consumer banking clients?
Sounds good. So right now, this is my second bank, my first Filipino bank for that matter. I think where it's been changing so far is how we connect to customers. We've seen for us at least, we've seen a massive drive towards digital for sure. It's probably due to the fact that the Philippines is made out of 7,000 plus different islands. And that doesn't really help when you talk about, going to physical branches and all that stuff. Although I do have to say my current organization blends both physical and digital very, very well. We do have the largest digital user base and also the largest physical branch user base, meaning we have close to 2,000 branches here in the Philippines, but we also have probably now closer to the 8 figures in user base for digital. So I think customer experience wise, through the past years prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and of course post pandemic, things have really just gone hyperspeed, and we've also become more adapted to how our customers see us and view us based off of how they've experienced our services on both fronts.
Right. Yeah, I actually read something about how BDO is, one of the tops in keeping, customer first, whether it's digital or physical. So that is a balance that you need to strive. I mean, it's very hard to find a balance, but to be known for both, that is something amazing. So I just want to know how do you find that perfect balance?
Well, I think on one hand, one of the tenets of running the operations that we do is placing the customer first. And that basically means when a customer goes into a branch of BDO, they feel at home to the point where they know the individual folks in the branch. And the folks in the branch also know them by name. So that adds to the community aspect of it. That probably is because of the fact that you'll find a BDO branch almost more than any Starbucks branch here in the Philippines. We always joke that you can literally see a BDO branch almost in every corner. And that is quite a feat, because that really lends itself to connecting very, very closely on a physical level. And I think the Philippines, probably similar to any other ASEAN or maybe Asian region, it's community-based, meaning we really appreciate being parts of communities, whether they be villages or townships or, major cities. There's still that sense of community. And therefore that really adds to the experience of the customer. Now, from a digital perspective, we also view it from maybe a segmentation that's relevant with generations, for example, how folks from even the baby boomers all the way to the older Gen Alpha who now have who might have their respective banking accounts. Their means to access us through digital means has been very, for us at least, very helpful because it allows us to continue improving the services that we provide our customers through digital means. And I think that's a testament to how focused we've always been towards the customer.
Right. Amazing. I mean, it's good. It's very hard to find actually a balance between baby boomers and all the way to Gen Alpha. That's number one. To having them being happy with your, with the applications and, to just go through the whole process, the whole journey, that's already amazing. What would you say based on this, right, would be one of the most significant implementation when it comes to a CX innovation in BDO?
Well, for one, just imbibing the whole CX mindset from a user perspective or even identifying various personas that we cater to. And we try to be as broad as we possibly could because that's recognition of who we are trying to reach out to. On one hand, we acknowledge, like I mentioned earlier, that we are a country of 7,000 islands or 7,000 plus islands. And therefore, there are different segments varying. We have segments of young mothers, or you have a segment of newly graduated professionals. And you also have a segment of solo parents, or you could even have as much as folks in their late 70s who still like to do banking. So just from that perspective alone, we try to envision how do each persona connect to us. Do they look at us from the context of a platform to build on their generational wealth? Do they look at us as a platform to make sure that their financial gains is secure? Do they look at us as a means to connect between families, meaning how do people, Filipinos actually from abroad, send over money to the Philippines? And these are things that we really strive hard to continuously understand and, always our ears on the ground, making sure that any change that could potentially impact how our customers see us and view us on a regular basis, we try to adopt to.
Okay, that's great. That's really great. So, in current times, like AI is definitely one of the, talked about solution for everyone, right? But in your experience and, being on ground, what do you think is the new tech that is coming to play that will change the game?
Aside from AI, say probably how all of these new platforms are starting to maybe consolidate or amalgamate. I'd say the rise of the super apps would probably be one aspect to it. And also another trend, which is kind of interesting. I'd say it's not necessarily a trend from an Asian perspective, but more so from a Western perspective. This is a little bit more commercial in nature, how people sell. And the reason this is important, because coming from consumer banking, we need to understand how consumers actually access goods, services. I've been seeing, of course, through the pandemic, stuff like live selling. I don't know if you're familiar with that. People go online and that's a new means of accessing goods. And how do we as financial services cater to that? And how do we equip our customers in having a more secure environment so that they can purchase not just your usual e-commerce. This is really how to access goods and services when they are being sold online. So, with the rise of TikTok, with the rise of platforms like Whatnot in the US or in the Western world, I think really the means to adapt to that kind of a setup is another trend. AI is definitely helping in that space because AI, at least from my understanding, helps with how to cater to the individual customers. I've been hearing a lot about this concept of For You page, which basically means personalization of content. I think financial services can definitely learn more about that. In my head, I'm thinking if I were to craft maybe an idea, it would be so great for me to access a financial service through digital means that is catered to my personal behaviors, to my personal interests. because that basically really personalizes my experience from a banking standpoint through digital. I think the for youification of financial services is something very, very interesting as well, because it gives you a more bespoke relationship with your
I like that. For how do you say that again?
for youification.
I'm going to use that for my whenever I say something. For youification. That's really nice. So do you mean like marketplaces? Just want to clarify. Like,
Yeah,
are you
definitely.
talking about yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I mean, marketplaces now, which, there's a relationship obviously with a marketplace and financial services, because you need money to purchase, or even as a seller, you need to have the ability to receive payments. And yeah, definitely that's something that I feel we need to all level up. In one session I became a panel with, I shared how interesting the most popular application up until now, at least here in the Philippines, is one of these platform or consolidator. It's not a bank site. It's not a rideshare site. It's not the major ones even. This is a new disruptive application, at least for the Philippines, coming out of the Asian region, that's really shattering all the supply chain notions or preconceived notions. And if I were to leverage off of that popularity and I were a financial service, I'd probably make sure that I always connect or find a way to work very closely or collaborate with that organization, because I mean that's payments. You're able to connect much closer to the customers of that platform, and therefore you get to access to services of the financial
interesting. Okay, I'm gonna Google search after this to find out which company you're talking about.
It's the orange one. The orange one.
Okay, I will check that out. Okay, so banks have always been, leading the forefront for customer experience. I mean, anywhere you go, it's always your BFSIs. That is always the main ones. Who's the first to, implement customer experience in their organization? But nowadays, do you think a lot of other industries are coming in as well? Which industry would you say would be one of the first to probably top the banking sectors?
Definitely go with any FMCG industry, maybe more like retail. And the reason for that is they're very tightly coupled. I think from a data and analytics standpoint, almost similar. We're talking about consumer information, how their behaviors are, what their patterns are, and that lends itself to the possibility of growing, becoming even more modern, becoming more adaptive to their customers and their clients. So definitely, I think that space. And interestingly enough, I've also been noticing the utility side of things. Telco, for example, is
right.
I mean, people think that maybe they're very sort of structured and all that stuff, but I think they, as an industry, they definitely need to be at the forefront of technology. So from an advancement standpoint, I think definitely they're always up there. So I think these three, retail, consumer goods, banking, and of course telcos, would always be sort of head to head in terms of how advanced they'd be. Outside of that, the others that I'd say would be sort of included in that space would probably be your food business. I think now it's interesting how, especially during the pandemic, how people have been so creative about selling food. I know, for example, I remember back in maybe the early 2010s, having this study coming out of Harvard around this mechanism of food delivery back in, at least in India, of, like how they consolidate food and that moves into the different employees and all that stuff. I think that was a precursor to maybe like Grab Food or Uber Eats. And I mean, things like that really drive disruption, which is positive because it allows for an entire market to reimagine how to access their customer with as low friction as possible. So I think, that's what I'd probably say along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do, welcome disruption as long as it's good for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, one last question before you go, Francis. Okay, let's say customer experience. Imagine it as a superhero. Who do you think it would be?
Professor Xavier. Only because my hope, and this is my hope, that customer experience is intuitive enough that it knows who it's reaching out to, and therefore it has the ability to adapt itself to whoever is accessing it. And by that, I go back to my earlier point about personalization or having a bespoke experience. If I had that ability to read minds and, I'm Mr. Customer Experience, that's what I would love, because that basically tells me immediately the moment, for example, I use my mom as an example. If it were only fixed that the customer experience of a digital bank is, for everybody it's the same, then how could it have addressed the fact that my mom is left-handed? If I had that idea that, or it could read minds, that, this person who's going to access me right now is going to be left-handed, that one eye is not as sharp as the other, and they read better with this, that would be amazing, because the kind of customer experience that you will give that particular customer is exactly what they need at that exact time. So I'd say that would be sort of the best superhero representation of my idea of what what amazing customer experience would be.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I thought you were going to go with speed, maybe Flash or something, but no, Xavier is like the best, I think, currently to have as a superhero for the customer experience. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay. I want to just thank you, Francis, for this lovely session. I learned a lot, and I hope anyone that's watching this podcast would also learn as well. And I just want to know, just let people know that, you can catch Francis at, our CX Global Summit Philippines this coming 3rd and 4th in Manila. He'll be taking the stage to discuss real-time customer feedback and harnessing technology for immediate action and continuous improvement alongside Metro Pacific Health and more. So before you go, any parting words of wisdom, Francis?
Well, I think for me, customer experience is something that will continuously evolve, and it will only evolve based on how we evolve. So I think we need to always push the envelope when we talk about customer experience, and we need to disrupt as much as we can, to your point, as long as it's something good. And maybe the last point is I'm an advocate for sustainability and green tech. So hopefully later on, customer experience connects itself or anchors itself to green technology and also sustainability, because I think that combination would just be absolutely stellar.
Okay, I'm going to steal that for the next topic. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Francis. We really appreciate your time and really love the session.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, Lavisha. It's great talking to you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned to more exciting episodes featuring industry leaders from around the globe. Until next time, stay curious and keep innovating.